The discovery. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but Captain Sarah Chen didn't notice. Her weathered hands gripped the control console of the salvage vessel Perseverance as she studied the readouts that had appeared on her screen 30 minutes earlier. At 42, Sarah had seen enough of the galaxy's mysteries to know when something didn't belong in the natural order of things. "Area, run that analysis again," she commanded, pushing a strand of graying hair behind her ear. The faint hum of the ship's life support system seemed louder in the silence that followed. "Captain, I've run the analysis 17 times, came the reply from her AI companion. Area 7's voice carried a hint of exasperation that the programmer swore was impossible. "The signal originated from grid section 847 Delta, approximately 4 light hours from our current position. Energy signature remains consistent with no known human or documented alien technology." Sarah leaned back in her pilot's chair, the worn leather creaking under her weight. She'd been working the outer rim salvage routes for 15 years, ever since the corporate wars had made honest work scarce in the inner systems. In all that time, she'd never encountered anything that made her scanner arrays behave like this. The signal wasn't just unusual, it was impossible. The energy readings suggested technology that operated on principles human science barely understood. More troubling still, the signal seemed to be growing stronger, as if whatever was transmitting it was becoming more active. "Captain," Area interrupted her thoughts. "I should point out that grid section 847 Delta has been marked as a no-fly zone since the Meridian incident 12 years ago. Colonial Authority classifies it as potentially hazardous to navigation." Sarah snorted. "The Colonial Authority classifies my breakfast as potentially hazardous to navigation. They've got that entire sector locked down tighter than a miser's credit account." She stood up, pacing the small bridge of her ship. "Question is, why? What's out there that they don't want people to find?" "Perhaps we should report the signal and allow proper authorities to investigate," Area suggested, though there was something in the AI's tone that suggested it didn't believe its own recommendation. "Since when have you become the voice of caution?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow. "You're the same AI that suggested we investigate that derelict freighter last month, even though it was broadcasting plague warnings." "That situation yielded a profit of 47,000 credits," Area replied defensively. "Besides, the plague warnings were fabricated by pirates attempting to discourage salvagers." Sarah grinned. Area had been her companion for 8 years now, ever since she'd found the damaged AI core floating in a debris field. Most salvagers preferred simple navigation computers, but Sarah had always been drawn to the unusual. She'd spent 6 months and most of her savings repairing Area's systems, and the AI had more than repaid that investment with its unconventional problem-solving abilities. "Set course for grid section 847 Delta," Sarah decided, settling back into her chair. "Best possible speed." "Captain, I feel obligated to point out that investigating restricted zones without proper authorization could result in the confiscation of our vessel, substantial fines, and potential imprisonment. Aria, in the 8 years we've been working together, when have I ever made a decision based on what's legal versus what's profitable?" "Never, Captain." Adjusting course now. The Perseverance wasn't much to look at. Built originally as a mining support vessel, Sarah had modified it extensively over the years. Additional sensor arrays bristled from its hull like mechanical whiskers, and the cargo bay had been expanded to accommodate larger salvage operations. The ship's fusion drive hummed to life, pushing them toward their mysterious destination. 4 hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of grid section 847 Delta. Sarah's scanner displays immediately lit up with contacts, but not the kind she was expecting. Instead of the usual scattered debris and abandoned installations that marked most restricted zones, her sensors showed something that made her breath catch in her throat. "Area, are you seeing this?" "Affirmative, Captain. Long-range sensors detect a structure approximately 12 kilometers in length. Configuration does not match any known human vessel designs." Sarah leaned forward, studying the readings. The object wasn't just large. It was massive beyond anything humans had ever constructed. The energy signature that had drawn them here was emanating from its core, pulsing in a rhythm that reminded her unnervingly of a heartbeat. Take us in closer, she ordered. But keep us at maximum sensor range. If that thing so much as hiccups, I want room to run. As they approached, the true scale of the derelict became apparent. It wasn't built like human ships, with clean lines and geometric efficiency. Instead, it seemed to flow, its hull covered in organic curves and flowing patterns that suggested it had been grown rather than constructed. Sections of the hull appeared to be semi-transparent, revealing internal structures that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Captain, Aria's voice carried a note of uncertainty. The structure appears to be partially organic. Energy patterns suggest biological processes are still active within the hull. You're telling me that thing is alive? Not entirely. Readings suggest a hybrid of organic and technological components. It's unlike anything in my databases. Sarah activated the ship's external cameras, zooming in on the alien vessel's surface. What she saw made her skin crawl and filled her with wonder in equal measure. The hull wasn't just organic in appearance, it was covered in what looked like a circulatory system, with channels that carried glowing fluid throughout the structure. Look at those patterns, she whispered, tracing the flowing lines on her display. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Captain, I'm detecting movement within the structure. Whatever biological processes are active, they appear to be responding to our presence. Sarah's hands moved instinctively to her weapon controls, then stopped. The alien ship wasn't targeting them or powering weapons. Instead, sections of its hull were shifting, revealing what looked like sensor arrays that turned in their direction with deliberate intent. It knows we're here, she said, quietly. Confirmed. The structure is actively scanning our vessel. However, the scans appear to be passive observation rather than targeting assessment. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. Instead of retreating, she powered down her weapon systems and activated the ship's communication array. If the alien vessel was trying to understand them, maybe they could return the favor. Aria, I want you to transmit a basic mathematical sequence. Prime numbers, starting with 2. Let's see if anyone's home. Captain, attempting communication with unknown alien entities violates approximately 37 different colonial regulations. Add it to my tab, Sarah replied, watching her displays intently. The transmission went out, a simple pattern of electromagnetic pulses that any technologically advanced civilization should recognize. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, the alien ship's energy signature spiked dramatically. Captain, the structure is responding. I'm receiving a return transmission. The response wasn't just the mathematical sequence they had sent. It was their sequence, but enhanced and expanded, woven into complex harmonic patterns that spoke of intelligence far beyond human capability. More importantly, embedded within the mathematical framework was something else. Coordinates. Aria, those coordinates, they're pointing to a specific location on the structure's hull. Confirmed. The transmission appears to be an invitation. Sarah stared at the alien vessel, its bioluminescent patterns now pulsing in sync with their ship's communication array. Every instinct told her to run, to report back to the authorities and let someone else deal with this discovery, but a larger part of her, the part that had driven her to become a salvager in the first place, whispered that this was the find of a lifetime. Aria, prep the shuttle. We're going aboard. Captain, I must protest. The risks of direct contact with unknown alien technology are incalculable. So was leaving Earth's atmosphere the first time, but humans did it anyway. Sarah was already moving toward the ship's equipment lockers, pulling out an environmental suit and portable scanner array. Besides, when has playing it safe ever gotten us anywhere? I maintain detailed records of 43 occasions when caution preserved our lives and assets. And how many opportunities for discovery did we miss by being careful? Aria paused, processing. That data is, by definition, incalculable. Sarah grinned as she sealed her helmet. Exactly. Load yourself into a portable unit. If we're making first contact, I want you there to record it. 30 minutes later, Sarah's shuttle approached the coordinates provided by the alien vessel. As they drew near, a section of the hull dilated open like an iris, revealing a docking bay that seemed to anticipate their approach. The bay's interior glowed with the same bioluminescent light that coursed through the ship's hull. Captain, atmospheric readings indicate a breathable environment within the docking bay. Temperature and pressure are within acceptable human parameters. Sarah guided the shuttle into the bay, marveling at how the organic walls seemed to adjust to accommodate their vessel. As soon as they landed, the iris sealed behind them, and she felt a slight pressure change as the bay filled with atmosphere. Well, Arya, no turning back now. Captain, I'm detecting multiple energy signatures approaching our location. We are about to have company. Sarah checked her sidearm one final time and activated her portable scanner. Whatever was waiting for them inside this alien vessel, humanity was about to make its presence known in the galaxy. She just hoped they were ready for whatever came next. The shuttle's ramp lowered with a hiss of equalizing pressure, and Captain Sarah Chen stepped into the unknown, carrying with her all the curiosity, courage, and stubborn determination that defined her species. The Alliance, the docking bay, fell silent as Sarah descended the shuttle's ramp, her boots echoing against what felt like a metallic surface but looked like polished bone. The walls around her pulsed with gentle bioluminescence, creating patterns that shifted and flowed like living artwork. Arya's portable unit, clipped to her belt, hummed quietly as it recorded everything. Captain, Arya whispered through her, helmet comm. I'm detecting approaching life signs. Multiple entities, but they're moving slowly. Not in an attack formation. Sarah kept her hand near her sidearm but didn't draw it. She'd learned long ago that first impressions mattered, especially when you were outnumbered on someone else's ship. The bay was larger than she'd initially thought, easily big enough to hold a dozen ships her size. But what caught her attention weren't the dimensions. It was the way everything seemed to flow together, as if the entire space had been shaped by some intelligence that understood beauty as well as function. A soft sound drew her attention to the far end of the bay. Something was emerging from what she had thought was a wall, but now realized was some kind of organic membrane. The figure that stepped through was unlike anything in human experience. It stood roughly 8 feet tall, with a body that seemed to be part flesh, part living metal. Its limbs were elongated and graceful, ending in hands that had too many fingers, but it was the face that made Sarah's breath catch. While clearly alien, there was something unmistakably intelligent in the large, multifaceted eyes that studied her with obvious curiosity. Captain, Arya's voice was filled with wonder. The entity is attempting communication. I'm receiving complex electromagnetic patterns that suggest language. The alien being tilted its head, studying Sarah for a long moment. Then it did something unexpected. It raised one of its many-fingered hands in what could only be interpreted as a greeting. Sarah slowly raised her own hand in response. Arya, can you attempt translation? Working, Captain. The linguistic patterns are unlike anything in my databases, but I'm beginning to identify recurring elements that may represent concepts. The alien began to speak, its voice a melodic combination of tones that seemed to come from multiple sources within its body. As it spoke, more figures emerged from the walls around the bay. Sarah counted at least a dozen beings, all similar in their basic structure but each unique in their specific configuration of organic and metallic components. Arya, please tell me you're making progress with the translation. Patience, Captain. Language is more than words. It requires understanding context and intent. Arya paused. I believe the primary entity is attempting to identify our species and our intentions. Sarah made a decision that would prove crucial to everything that followed. She removed her helmet, exposing her face to the alien atmosphere. The air was breathable, carrying scents of ozone and something that reminded her of growing plants. The aliens reacted immediately, their bioluminescent patterns shifting to brighter, warmer colors. The primary figure took a step closer, its large eyes focusing intently on Sarah's face. I am human, Sarah said clearly, pointing to herself. Human, from Earth. Progress, Captain, Arya announced. The entity is responding to your vocal patterns. I'm beginning to establish basic communication protocols. For the next hour, Sarah and Aria worked with the alien beings to establish basic communication. The process was frustrating and fascinating in equal measure. The aliens, who eventually conveyed that they called themselves the Viridian, had a language that incorporated emotional and harmonic elements alongside traditional semantic content. The breakthrough came when the primary Viridian, who Sarah learned was named something like Harmonist of Distant Stars, managed to convey through a combination of gestures, harmonic tones, and Aria's increasingly sophisticated translation that they were refugees. Refugees? Sarah asked. From what? The response chilled her to the bone. Through laborious translation, Harmonist explained that the Viridian had fled from a war that was consuming their section of the galaxy. An aggressive species called the Devourers had begun systematically destroying worlds, harvesting their resources and eliminating all other life forms. "How long have you been running?" Sarah asked. The answer was staggering. The Viridian ship had been traveling for over 50 Earth years, searching for a safe place to settle. They were the last survivors of their entire civilization. "Captain," Aria's voice carried urgency, "I'm detecting energy signatures at the edge of the system, multiple contacts approaching fast." Harmonist's bioluminescent patterns shifted to deep red, and every Viridian in the bay suddenly became agitated. The ship's own bioluminescence began pulsing rapidly, and Sarah felt a vibration through the deck plates. "They've found us," Harmonist managed to convey through Aria's translation. "The Devourers, they followed our energy trail." Sarah's mind raced. Her little salvage ship was no match for whatever was approaching. The Viridian vessel was massive and clearly technologically advanced, but Harmonist had made it clear that they were refugees, not warriors. Their ship was designed for survival, not combat. "How many ships?" Sarah asked Aria. "Long-range sensors detect at least 12 contacts, Captain. Energy signatures suggest vessels significantly larger than our own." Sarah made another decision that would define not just her fate, but potentially the future relationship between humans and the wider galaxy. She activated her ship's communication array and sent a transmission that would reach human space within hours. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the independent vessel Perseverance. I am transmitting from restricted space with urgent information regarding potential alien contact. Colonial Authority, please relay to Earth Central Command. First contact established with refugee species fleeing aggressive alien force. Immediate military assistance required." Harmonist watched her with those large, multifaceted eyes. Through Aria, it asked, "You call for help? For us?" "That's what humans do," Sarah replied simply. "We help those who need it." But help was ours, away, and the Devourer ships would arrive in minutes. Sarah studied the tactical display Aria had created, showing the approaching enemy formation. 12 ships against one massive but non-military vessel and her own tiny salvage ship. The math was simple and discouraging. "Aria, what are the Viridian ship's capabilities?" "Based on my analysis, Captain, the vessel appears to be primarily biological in nature. It has remarkable self-repair capabilities and efficient resource utilization but limited defensive systems." Sarah looked at Harmonist, then at the other Viridian gathered around them. These beings had fled across the galaxy to escape extinction. They deserved better than to die in an empty star system so close to potential salvation. "Harmonist," she said through Aria's translation. "Your ship, can it merge with other technology?" The alien's patterns shifted to what Sarah was learning. Indicated confusion. "Your ship is biological, partly alive," Sarah continued, her mind working furiously. "My ship is mechanical, but it has weapons and shields. What if we could combine them somehow?" Harmonist's bioluminescence suddenly flared bright white, and it began communicating rapidly with the other Viridian. The conversation was too fast for Aria to translate in real time, but Sarah could see the excitement in their body language. "Captain," Aria announced, "the Viridian are discussing something called neural bridging. It appears to be a process where their biotechnology can interface directly with mechanical systems. Can they do it with our ship?" "They believe so, but the process has never been attempted with human technology. The risks are considerable. Sarah looked at her chronometer. The Devourer ships would be in weapon range in less than 10 minutes. Harmonist, we don't have time for safe. Can your ship connect with mine? Share its abilities? The response was immediate. Harmonist gestured, and several other Viridian began moving toward the bay where Sarah's shuttle waited. As they moved, the ship itself began to change around them. Organic conduits extended from the walls, reaching toward the shuttle with obvious intent. Captain, I strongly advise against allowing alien biotechnology to interface with our ship's systems. Arya, do you have a better plan for surviving the next 10 minutes? No, Captain. Then we try it their way. What followed was unlike anything in human experience. The Viridian bioconduits attached to Sarah's shuttle, and she felt more than saw her ship being absorbed into the alien vessel. But it wasn't destruction. It was integration. Through the transparent sections of the Viridian hull, she could see her shuttle's hull being restructured, its mechanical components merging with organic systems. Captain, I'm receiving data streams I've never encountered before, Arya reported, wonder clear in its voice. The Viridian ship is sharing its consciousness with our systems. I can sense its thoughts, its memories of traveling between stars. Sarah felt it too, through her suit's connection to Arya. Suddenly she was aware of the vast ship around her not as a vessel, but as a living entity with hopes and fears. She could sense its exhaustion from 50 years of flight, its determination to protect the last of the Viridian people. Devourer ships entering weapons range, Arya announced, but there was something different in its voice, something that hadn't been there before. Sarah looked at her scanner display and gasped. Her small salvage ship's energy signature had multiplied tenfold. The biomechanical fusion had created something entirely new, a vessel that combined human, military technology with Viridian biological adaptability. Harmonist, are we ready? The alien's response came not through Arya's translation, but directly into Sarah's mind through the neural link the ship had created. We are ready, Sarah, who calls for help. Let us show these Devourers what happens when they threaten those under our protection. The first Devourer ship opened fire as it came into range, energy beams that would have vaporized either vessel alone. But the merged ship was something neither enemy had encountered before. The Viridian biohull absorbed and distributed the energy while human-designed shields deflected what couldn't be absorbed. In response, the ship's weapons, now augmented by biological targeting systems, returned fire with precision that no purely mechanical system could achieve. The battle was brief but decisive. The Devourer ships, designed to overwhelm opponents, through superior numbers and firepower, found themselves facing an enemy that adapted in real time to their attacks. The biomechanical fusion learned from each exchange, growing more effective with every passing moment. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, Sarah found herself standing in what had once been her shuttle but was now something entirely new. The walls showed her tactical displays, but they also pulsed with the same gentle bioluminescence as the rest of the Viridian ship. Captain? Arya's voice carried notes of wonder and something that might have been joy. The integration is permanent. Our ships have become something new together. Harmonist appeared beside her, its patterns now showing colors Sarah somehow understood meant contentment and hope. Through the neural link, it shared a concept that took her breath away. Not just an alliance between their species, but a true partnership where human ingenuity combined with Viridian wisdom could create something neither could achieve alone. 6 hours later, when the Colonial Authority ships arrived in response to Sarah's distress call, they found something unprecedented. A human captain serving as liaison aboard an alien vessel, facilitating the first formal diplomatic contact between humanity and a galactic civilization. Sarah stood on what had once been her bridge, but was now a hybrid command center, watching human and Viridian engineers work side by side to understand their merged technologies. She thought about the choice she'd made to investigate that mysterious signal, and about all the choices that had led to this moment. Arya, she said quietly, I think we just changed the course of human history. Indeed, Captain. And I believe it was changed for the better. In the depths of space, the impossible ship continued its journey toward Earth, carrying not just refugees seeking sanctuary, but the promise of a future where humanity would not face the galaxy's challenges alone.